Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Ananda, the Galactic Mystic. I'm a professional astrologer, mystic, and folk witch. This is navigational astrology, and today I wanted to make a short video talking to you about the 3 stages of Mercury retrograde. So it's really cool that these days everybody knows about Mercury retrograde. Mercury is in Gatorade. Mercury's in the microwave. We all, we all dread it, talk about it, and use it as an excuse when things start going awry. But did you know that even though Mercury is technically only retrograde for about 3 weeks, the whole thing is more like 7 weeks long. We have what's called a pre-retrograde shadow, the retrograde itself, and a post-retrograde shadow. So I'm a firm believer that everything that happens astrologically is for us. It's not happening to us. Everything is an opportunity. And Mercury retrograde is a beautiful opportunity for us to let ourselves off the hook when it comes to making big decisions. It's an ask to soften our hearts and to leave more allowance for things like miscommunications, making mistakes, having to redo things. And those are good things to have on deck, aren't they? Now, there are some practical things that we should do every Mercury retrograde. And I wrote an article called, I forget what it's called, something like The Magic of Mercury Retrograde. I'm going to put it in the description box below. Check that out. I include my personal guidelines and some really cool mystical stuff about Mercury retrograde. I think you'll like it. So, what is the deal with these shadow periods? Well, the 2 weeks before Mercury stations retrograde, the pre-retrograde shadow. And this is the time when we should really start paying attention, because most of the time we will begin to pick up on themes of what this particular Mercury retrograde will have in store for us individually. Also, a lot of times we can pick up on news threads or things like that that also could kind of unfold during Mercury retrograde on the world stage. But in our own lives, if we start paying attention, once Mercury is in the pre-retrograde shadow, it can help us prepare. And prep is always good, right? We, of course, want to back up all our stuff and not make big tech purchases and stuff like that. But if we know that there's kind of a theme coming up, we can be more ready for it. So pre-retrograde shadow is the 2 weeks before Mercury retrograde. And this is when we get hints to what it's going to be about this time, because each one is different. Each Mercury retrograde has a little bit of its own different kind of flavor to the sauce. So then we have the actual Mercury retrograde, and then we have the post retrograde shadow. Now, this is often the time when now, we're not going to be making big decisions during Mercury retrograde, right? If we can help it. We can't always control those things, but if we can help it, we're going to not sign really important papers without like fine combing through all the stuff. If we can avoid it, we're going to avoid it and wait to do it later, right? A lot of times those things end up happening during the post-retrograde shadow. That's when we tend to implement the changes that we were considering during the retrograde. If you were really thinking about breaking up with your partner during Mercury retrograde, I advise not doing it. But during the post-retrograde shadow, You may decide to do it then, because a lot of times our heads are clearer, we have more information. It's kind of like the green light to make whatever changes that you thought about during the retrograde. So astrologically, what's happening during these phases? Well, if you're interested in this, I will explain it. So astrologically, what's happening is that the pre-retrograde shadow begins at the degree that Mercury will station direct after the retrograde. Does that make sense? And then the post-retrograde shadow ends after Mercury hits the degree he stationed retrograde at. So if Mercury was going to station retrograde at 25 Leo, 25 degrees of Leo, and he was going to retrograde back to 5 degrees Leo, 5 degrees Leo, when Mercury first enters Leo, would be the beginning of the pre-retrograde shadow. And that shadow would last until Mercury stationed retrograde at 25 Leo. So then he goes retrograde, back to 5 Leo. Once Mercury stations direct, the post-retrograde shadow lasts until he reaches the degree where he stationed retrograde, 25 Leo. Does that make sense? It's probably easier to look at it in a chart, but that's basically what's happening. Do you have questions? If you have questions, leave them for me down below. Check out the article, The Magic of Mercury Retrograde. And, if you would like to get on my schedule for an amazing reading, please visit my website. I hope you're doing really well. I'll talk to you soon.